You probably won't see this. You never know. And if you do, I mean, most of you aren't willing to do the right thing. You're only, subscribing to polarizing positive vibes only and flat out propaganda in place to fuck you and I up. And most of you aren't bright enough to realize it. And if I left a lengthy statement in here, most of you would say, I'm not reading all that. You wouldn't believe how many stupid fucking people say as much. Yeah. So, I told you guys in the past, one too many times, our masters are playing the long game. Yeah, we have masters. And I shouldn't have to spell that out to people, just like all this other stuff. If I was surrounded by thinking people, critical thinkers, people who actually mean well, not just fucking morons who are saying, I'm doing the right thing, I'll repeat anything. And that's who you and I are surrounded by. Users of emojis. I like to pick on that because most idiots bought into it and they've never given it a second thought. Not one. Really. I don't know, that's a contradiction. Yeah. So, I want you to think about 2020 to present day, the enduring agenda, otherwise known as COVID. Yeah? Our master's tactics aren't terribly clever, but they are effective because blah, 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 blah. Some of you should be able to fill this in because I've said it a lot. Gullible people will repeat anything, which means most people will fall into line, march in lockstep, and wear their horse blinders, with pride. They'll be proud to wear those horse blinders. And they'll argue in favor, of marching in lockstep instead of coloring outside the lines and being a human, being an individual, being remotely free, being free in any form or way is a better way to put it. So 2020 to present day having to do with COVID. Our masters fulfilled a quota, after which they lifted all of the divisive restrictions that were imposed on you and I because they control the internet. All things connected to media, which has since been rebranded as content. Every fucking business you could possibly think of. And all the, mom and pop shops, which we should have more of than, corporations. They demonize that stuff. Here in Portland, Oregon, there was a number of places. A couple actually stood their ground. I don't have a vehicle anymore. I sold it. Otherwise, I would have tried to support them for what it's worth. And I didn't because I didn't have the means to for what it's worth. But there was a bar here in Oregon that remained open, a mom and pop bar, and they weren't enforcing all the bullshit. And so what happened was they started getting ridiculously large fines every single day that they remained open as a deterrent. The same tactics are going to happen having to do with social credit slavery, where if everything's connected to, a digital medium and can be manipulated, it will just be shut off if you're not marching in lockstep. If you say things like I say, online, you'll have no traction, and or there will be monetary sanctions and or jail time, as outlined in the Davos panel last year. Well, technically it's still the same year, but most of you would probably think of it as, last year. By the way, the new year is on March 21st, in case you're a fucking retard, marching in lockstep. So, a quota was fulfilled. Do you understand? Most of you probably don't, which means you need to take notes and you need to consider what I said because I took time and energy to relate this to you because I'm trying to help you, emphasis on trying, but most of you aren't very bright. You could change this. It will take time, but you need to retrain your brain. You need to think critically. Most of you assume that you're smart and that you're not a pseudo-intellectual, and yet you are marching in lockstep and you're repeating the propaganda. And I'm getting ahead of myself because there's too many fucking things to build up for stupid fucking people who have not been paying attention because they had their heads up their ass. This bleeds into something else. And I'm already off point, and I'm already losing my train of thought. So you got simulation theory, multiverse of adult fairy tale bullshit. You got holographic nonsense, all things quantum bullshit, quantum theory. Look that one up. You're told you have to see it, right? You can't be told what it is. You got to walk the walk, not talk the talk. Yeah? And once you see it, you can't unsee it, despite the fact that, short of a head injury, even though they have the character Cypher in there and you're sold another, phony fucking message having to do with that. 1 second. I forgot this thing's still spinning. And I just lost my train of thought again. God damn it. It bleeds into what I'm driving at with, I pulled my head out of my ass. I understand some of these things. People do not understand these things. Most people aren't challenging a goddamn thing, especially authority, even though they'll repeat it, but they won't walk the walk. They'll just talk the talk, and repeat what they're spoon-fed. We got this, all that other bullshit, flowery fucking bullshit that doesn't go anywhere. These are the same people who buy into, marching in lockstep with the horse blinders on and believe that peaceful protests are going to change something, despite the fact that that clashes with what history reflects. Peaceful protests have never changed anything for the better, ever. There's not one documented case. Not one. Not one. Some of you might assume otherwise. Those are still within the parameters of marching in lockstep with your horse blinders on. So I'm trying to get back to 2 points, and I'm already way off course. I wanted to rattle this off the other day, having to do with, now I'm back to it. Good. So, the Matrix, how you have to be, shown what it is. You can't be told what it is. A lot of times I won't think in terms of that, and I try not to reaffirm that because it's garbage in place to pave the way for a one world religion, and most of you don't get that. Because you believe in atoms or you believe in quantum bullshit. You've told people about quarks or black holes or some other fucking equally retarded dog shit that doesn't mean anything. It's not based on replicable evidence-based research. It's based on popular opinion and hearsay. It's based on adult fairy tales. So when I tell you guys to pull your head out of your ass, that's my grassroots approach to saying put in the fucking time, walk the walk. Pull your head out of your ass, and usually I'll say look around. Because the more often you do this, you'll start to see these things. You'll start to appreciate these things, which means you'll start to understand these things. And the more often you do that, you will look around and realize that you are surrounded by people who are absolutely fucking dim. They're everything that's fucking everything up. Typically speaking, every single day that they get up, breathe air, walk around, absent-mindedly, and do what they do, they fuck things up more and more and more every single day. Every day they interact with the DARPA internet, they make things worse. Every day. Every single fucking day. That's part of why things are getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And I usually will say exponentially speaking because we are all connected now. It's a divisive agenda. It cuts so many fucking different ways. And people don't have eyes to see because they don't see the forest for the trees. They don't understand what this is and how they're being manipulated, let alone that they are. I don't think you guys have probably ever thought about this, is my point. You take the Matrix, you have to be told what it is. No, you have to be shown what it is, right? You have to fucking walk the walk. And have you ever considered the fact that I've been paralleling this with pulling your head out of your ass and fucking doing the right thing? And most of you aren't willing to do that. Most of you won't share the fucking videos I leave online, let alone interact with them, let alone like them. You don't want to come out of the woodwork because these things are controversial. You don't want to out yourself. Because most of you are playing it safe and most of you are marching in lockstep, whether you realize it or not. Now, keep in mind, I don't expect you to like the videos. Because that means you're just going to have more rants in your fucking feed. I expect you to pop into the account and process the information and take notes. I do expect that of people if you're remotely smart and you mean well, for what it's worth. It's not the end of the world if you don't interact and, leave a comment in there. But it is also very telling, is my point, that most people don't because they're chicken shits. And you'll see this if you do what I've been doing. You would not believe how different my life is compared to, 13 years ago. When I was, playing it nice for the most part and not challenging all these fucking morons, many of which, most of which I care about. At least the people in my life, that are, anywhere close to my inner circles. Most of them kicked me to the fucking curb. Just like these kids, I'm not going to read all that. On par with that philosophy, that brain dead mindset. And that should concern you. So here's the other thought, that all of this big buildup, this 10 minutes of, this, that, and the other thing that most people probably didn't sit through has to do with our masters are playing the long game. They're chipping away at this shit. I mentioned COVID. I mentioned the fact that the restrictions were lifted once the quota was fulfilled. Yeah? Now, appreciate, and most of you probably don't, but I urge you to think about it. Think about it. Whether I spoon feed you every single fucking point for point, bullet points in a neat, presentable, I can click repost and pretend that I'm smarter than I am kind of a presentation, I want you to think about it. Think about what I'm saying. And some of you would probably say, oh, you're not saying anything. You're just saying a lot of words. Because you can't fucking process information anymore. You need to retrain your brain so that you can. I'm telling you two different things multiple times over. And in this case, you can parallel them, even though this is, how I think of things. And it is a little disconnected. It's not as neat and clean as most people would prefer. And I'm purposely drawing some of this stuff out and trying to remember, where I'm going with it as I'm, muddling through it myself. So we can get from A to B. So think of COVID. Think of the restrictions being lifted. Think of the quota being fulfilled. Now think in terms of patently fascist censorship. Think about censorship culture, fascism culture, which people call cancel culture because they're fucking idiots. And they paved the way for censorship. They paved the way for a fascist experience on the DARPA internet, which is nowhere remotely close. It's the furthest thing from freedom of speech. And the internet used to be really cool. You used to fucking work. It used to be neat. You used to be able to find information on the internet. And you don't anymore because now it's all disinformation and patently fascist censorship. And most people don't understand that. Because most people who are repeating the propaganda, they're getting a pat on the ass and they have traction. They have the social engineering feedback loop of likes and all the other garbage and lots of people, leaving emojis in their pointless fucking comment sections. And they are the problem. I want you to think about how many people bought into censorship, how many people technically support it. And to understand that, you have to think about what I just said and why I took all this time to build this up. Why I've said these things. I hate that I stress this and feel the need to, but most people won't. They wouldn't consider it otherwise. This is just as good as having to tell retards, like, subscribe, and blah, blah, blah. If you were willing to do the right thing, you would be doing that anyway, but I see videos with thousands of fucking views and only maybe 50 or 100 likes. Because most people wouldn't walk across the street if you were being beaten to death and try to help you. That's the world I live in. Because that reflects reality, unfortunately. That's not the only point to this. So, recently in Davos panels, the public version of the Bilderberg Group, in case you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah? It's a consent-based system. I said that poorly both times, I think. Which is why you got the public version and why you got the private version. You got the public version, which is the Davos panel, which gives us a transcript and tells us how they're going to manipulate our lives and do away with our innate rights, which they dress up as civil liberties. And then you got the private version, which is the Bilderberg Group, where they have butt sex, do some drugs, and perform mock sacrifices with children. Bohemian Grove, which used to have a giant effigy of Buddha, which is Jesus, Isis, which is Baphomet, which is the devil, Bacchus, Dionysus, Hermes, Mercury, all those things. It's the messenger, it's hermaphroditic, AC/DC motherfucker, in case this is your first rodeo. And now, it's dressed up as Moloch, because it's not far removed. In other words, so if you got people in a Christian church worshiping that and saying amen, which is quite literally the same thing, And now you got a giant owl effigy, which is just as good as putting a baby in a giant, statue of a bull with an oven for a belly. Things have not changed, and people do not know what they're talking about. So now I want you to think about the Davos panel, the public version. They've openly stated that they're going to quite literally impose sanctions on people like myself. Monetary, jail time, this, that, and the other thing. And a number of other ridiculous fucking things, all of which are unconstitutional if you think in terms of that bullshit, even though that doesn't exist anymore. Nothing is for the people, by the people. It hasn't been since 1871, at least. And that hasn't dawned on most people who assume that they're patriots or they're still waxing poetic about Team America, or they think they can vote in somebody to fix things, even though those are stewards of the District of Columbia, because you're surrounded by retards. I'm surrounded by retards. These retards are fucking everything up. All they know are adult fairy tales, fallacies, propaganda. And this is what they call rabbit holes, and they encourage others to chase them because they go nowhere, mean nothing, and are fuck all. Talk about the long game, you guys. Talking about a process of normalization. People have bought into incremental steps of censorship, which means they're going to accept the fact that people such as myself aren't singing the same song in praise. People such as myself are not marching in fucking goose step, lockstep, with their horse blinders on. And most of the people out there would assume that I'm off my rocker, I'm crazy, or something equally fucking retarded. All the while, they support fascism. Through and fucking through. And many of them are still the same people saying, Team America! Patriotism! And all that other load of rot. Because they've never fucking looked into any of this. They do not have a fucking foundation to stand on. They're not cooking with fire. They are brain dead sacks of fucking meat. They're everything wrong with today. With what you would dress up as the world. Even though I don't know anybody who understands what that is. Not one. These things have been normalized. These things have been rolled out on a schedule. People have been torn down and reconditioned to accept fascism. And this is no different from the agenda from 2020, which was normalized. It was well-financed, well-circulated. It came to fruition. Most people supported it. And once the quota was fulfilled, the restrictions were lifted. Not unlike rolling out numerous censorship campaigns and getting a bunch of superficial fucking retards to buy into them, believe in them, repeat them, and argue in favor of them. But you sign up for, when you jump on Instagram, you jump on any one of these profiles, you sign something, so it's okay because you consented to that. So they can censor your speech. It's okay because you did that. It's all right. It's different on the internet. These are the type of fucking retards you'll bump into. Not somebody who will fight for freedom of speech and do the right thing, which is in line with actually being a patriot, which is in line with actually being, free, and all those other things that people like to wax poetic about but don't come anywhere fucking close to. What the fuck do I know? Oh, and you could share some of these messages. You could. Stuff like this, I encourage you to share. The really neat stuff that I could show you, I wouldn't, because people will just fuck it up. But this is superficial to me. This is superficial through and through. And superficial people do not understand, appreciate, or know these things. They could, but most people are functionally retarded and proud of it, which means they confuse entertainment with research. If you hung out, color me impressed.